What is up, YouTube? I'm back again, and we are still trying to level up Shadow, playing Stealth Master. And we didn't get a chance to use the 100 coins we have now to level him up. So we're going to try to do that right now and see where we get with this. So we need 120 red coins next time. And we got the bow now. So let's see if that comes up. We'll try that since it's free. Yep, and it's free. Let's take it and just try it out. So today's topic, today's Yap session is going to be on, again, another suggestion by my buddy, which, again, he's been dropping some really good suggestions, but I might rephrase it a little bit because he called it as romance isn't all that. And I don't want to call it that because I don't believe that romance isn't all that, but I think it's taking it too far. He's a little too nonchalant, where I think that romance can be a great thing. It can be quite enjoyable. It can mean a lot to your life, but it's not the only thing you should be chasing. You shouldn't only be chasing women. You shouldn't be so afraid to be alone, as in not in a relationship or not married, that it causes you to make bad decisions and to compromise solid biblical moral values. So today, my goal is to kind of give you some insight in terms of my thoughts on romance, my thoughts on relationships, and it comes with a huge red flag and caveat, meaning that, well, yeah. The huge red flag and caveat is that I am single. I've never been in a committed relationship, but I've never tried to be. I have no kids outside of wedlock. I am still a virgin, and I am 30 years old. Now, these have been like a lot of deliberate decisions in my life getting to this point. Some of which I wish I had a little bit more insight and thought more deeply about when I was younger. And some of which the other part is I really don't have too many regrets. I wish I did take relationships a little bit more serious when I was in undergrad, my 4 years of college, because it's very rare when you're in an opportunity where you're in a location where everyone's around the same age. You have similar desires and aspirations, and then you have from people from so many different walks of life. And so that gives you a very high likelihood and pressure cooker where you can find people pretty quickly that may be potential lifelong partners. I don't believe in having the one. You just need a one that matches enough of your values and overlaps enough, and you make the rest work. So this is going to kind of dovetail nicely off of the last conversation that I talked about yesterday, where I said, stop aspiring to be a whore, right? Your goal shouldn't be to be successful just so you can sleep with as many women as possible. That's not what I believe. And then the other thing is, I don't believe that only being in a relationship is going to bring true fulfillment. I believe that when you are truly whole and happy by yourself, where you know what makes you happy, you know what makes you tick, you know how to calm yourself down, you truly trust in the Lord, all those different things, you can bring 100% of yourself to a relationship. That is going to be the genesis or a building block for the best type of relationship. Because in that point, now you're moving into a world and a space where you're not depending on your future spouse, fiance, or significant other to make you happy. You understand that they don't have that power. But your goal is to come into a relationship where it deepens and enriches your life, because now you do have the extra layer of romance. You have that extra layer of support. You have that extra ability to start building your own family with your own values and propagate your thoughts and your beliefs into the next generation, and really model the relationship that is Christ and the church. And I think that's a very beautiful and fulfilling thing. So I'll never take that away. But it also doesn't mean that because you desire those things so much that you slip up and crash out and marry any which person who comes your way, any person who gives you the time of day, and that you are so desperate to be married that you're going to be willing to cut corners and cut and make concessions for things that are not biblical. So as I said, I was going to say some things that are going to sound kind of out there. I won't say that the ideas sound novel. They will sound very red pill-esque, but they're very much different. So the first thing I'll say is, biblically, I don't see evidence for modern dating in the Western culture as it is today in the Bible. I don't see where a guy and a girl kick it by themselves, Netflix and chill, test each other out as if they're cards, which we're not, and play house for 3 years, be engaged for 2 more years, and after 7 to 8 years, you finally get married and legitimize your child you may have had before or after marriage. So because of that, that initial thought, I really had no interest in dating. The second thing is, for me, I don't see dating as a superior way for fun. What do I mean by that? When I think of people saying that dating is fun because they are bored, they want to go out and have fun and do different things, I feel like they don't have enough friends. Because anything that I would do on a date will be significantly more fun with my friends, because we've had 10 plus years to build a relationship, to have inside jokes. We already know what each other likes. We know that we're not, we may cover for each other for different events, but net, we're taking care of ourselves. And it's going to be a higher probability that we know we're going to have fun because we're going to pick to do things that we know that we both like to do. In contrast, where when you're picking this random stranger just because you thought her face was pretty, and you might not know if anything else overlaps. All you ask was for their number, and you go on this thing, and it's going to be a terrible interaction. This woman can be a complete psycho. She can become a stalker. She can accuse you of some of the most horrendous things, ruin your life, ruin your career, put you in jail. And so for me, that never sounded fun. I would rather have fun with my friends than with a random person that I just met just because I thought their face was pretty. So the next step, so those two things, again, this it's building up for like why biblically there's no basis for dating in the modern sense. And then the second thing is, I would have more fun hanging out with friends or family than I would with a random stranger that I may or may not like. All I know is that I like her face. So then we stack on that again another layer. I think that marriage and relationships should be highly intentional. If you're getting into a relationship to build that romance and build a deeper connection and ability to have a family, it shouldn't be only focused on physical attraction. Yes, you want to make sure you're attracted to your spouse so you make them feel wanted and desired, but those are lower on the totem pole, because often disgusting things can be wrapped in great packages. There's a reason why vapes usually smell so good, or they try to make other types of drugs and stuff palatable for people to first get in and then get addicted and get stuck. But they're really terrible for your body, causing you cancer and killing you from the inside. So for me, I try to focus on trying to make sure that I'm not looking for random strangers, but these are people that have already been vetted, people within my circle already. And so with me now being 30 and I'm coming to the end of my training and starting to think more about relationships and more seriously, I recognize that I need to make sure I'm in the right places at the right time. So in my profession, I know that most of the women that are nearest to me are not a good match because I've been able to observe them for most of them many years. And within the first few months of just observing them where they're not trying to impress me, and that's actually what I want to go to. I'm going to take a pause right here and do a detour. So the other thing about meeting strangers, because this right here is going to be directly related, is that when you meet this person, that person finds you attractive, you find them attractive, you ask them out. For the first few interactions or longer, you don't even know this is a real person. They're putting on their best performance to make sure they might be the person that they believe you might want them to be. So you're meeting their representative and not the real person. And I don't want to go through the song and dance and hoops to jump through to try to figure out, is this the real person? Are they showing me their real selves? Are they really short tempered? Are they really this nice? I don't want to play that game. That's a waste of time. So for me, going back to what I was talking about, having people and observing the women in my circle, I've been able to observe them when they're not trying to impress me. They're just going to work. They're just making jokes. They're cracking jokes with their friends and their colleagues. They're doing things in their circles that it's not trying to impress me. So I get a chance to get a better, more authentic view of who they are. So I know that they don't serve God. I know they have no desire to serve God. And because for me, faith is one of those main things that has to overlap, I know that many of them are not qualified. So there's no reason for me to waste my time, even if they are very attractive. So that saves me time, it saves them time, it saves me money, saves me resources, it saves me bandwidth of potentially getting stuck or caught up into something just because I invested a ton of time into this person. And people want to tell the lie that you can't choose who you fall in love with, and that's not true, especially not biblically. I'm going to attach the card here for Vodi Bakkum's Love and Marriage series, where he talks about the best, for me, I think the best definition of biblical love, which he defines as a choice or an act of the will, which he says an act of the will that's accompanied by emotion and requires an action on behalf of his object. So love has a 3-component aspect to it. First and foremost, you can't love something that you don't choose to love. What does that mean? You can't love something that you can't conceive of or you've never seen, you've never interacted with. You can only love things that you spent time fixating on or spending time with. This applies to a person. You can't love a person you haven't spent time with, whether or not you're texting them all the time, talking to them all the time, or physically being in their presence. It's hard for you to love something that you've never seen, experienced, or dealt with. Second thing is that love is just not a feeling. It's not the butterflies or the excitement or the giddiness or the heart flutters or heart palpitations. It's not those feelings. And love is accompanied by emotion, but it's not an emotion. Because when you truly love a person, you mourn when they mourn. You rejoice when they're rejoicing. And when someone hurts them, you get righteously angry. And when they say something to you or lie to you, it cuts much deeper than a stranger. So love is going to be associated with an emotion, but it is not ruled, nor is it an emotion. It is a decision first. And then it requires action path as object. If you love a person, you're not going to intentionally try to hurt them. You're going to try to compromise. You're trying to make sure that person is as well compensated for or compromised for as you possibly can do. So for me, I don't need to spend time with a person that I don't plan on developing a deeper relationship with. So I don't have to worry about just falling in love with a random person that I just see because they're attractive. I'm not going to fall in love, what they call that, but that's more so falling in lust. And so when you stack all that together, it's like, okay, modern dating really doesn't make sense and it doesn't really get you any closer to the goal that you want. But instead, what I'm starting to do now is, like I said, with my circle, I recognize that the women in my immediate circle are not a great fit. So what I need to do is start making sure I'm in areas that allow me to interact with more mixed groups that will have women in there that I'm able to observe and watch and interact with, where I can start seeing what are those values. And for me, the values that I care about are faith, finances, and family values. Do you believe in God? Are you a Christian? Do you believe in not spending more than what you make? Not trying to show off for people who don't care about you, saving up for your future and being a good steward of what you have. And then do you have a good relationship with your family? Do you believe in the fact that you should care for them before the world cares for them? That if they're in need, that you provide for them, whether you like them or not? Do you submit to your parents? Do you show them the honor that is due? Because that would tell me a lot in terms of whether or not you submit to me as your husband and leader of the household. So those type of things that I can observe from the interactions and how our shared colleagues and circle view you, whether in high esteem or low esteem. That'll give me a lot of information before I even decide that, you know what, this might be a person that I choose to pursue. And so by the time I've already gotten that sense of like, okay, this person is pretty solid, this person is pretty well respectable, I've gotten a sense of their faith. I might not know about their finances or their family values in too deeply, but now that I've already kind of figured out the other things that I've seen and the circles that we can run in, then I know that I can figure those out maybe on the first date or the first interaction when I ask her out. And my goal is not to take her home and kick it, Netflix and chill, but no, we can go out, we have a conversation, might get a coffee, might go on a walk. And yeah, we're hitting the hard conversations first because I rather know right now than waste a month, 2 months, or 3 months that I could have been spending with someone else, getting me closer to my goal of a meaningful, long lasting marriage. And then, because all the fun stuff, I don't need to worry about Valentine's Day and all those different things. All the things I'm looking for people thinking of, oh, that's what you should do in a relationship. I'm not buying jewelry for a quote unquote girlfriend. If you're not my wife, you're not getting jewelry. If you're not my wife, we're not going on vacation together. If you're not my wife, we're not staying together by ourselves in any location. It's just not going to happen. Likewise, if you're not my wife, I don't expect you to come behind. If you're not my wife, I don't expect you to listen to me and take my word. But I do expect you to see how you honor your parents, how you respond to authority like your supervisors. I don't expect you to cook for me. I don't expect you to do any of those things because you're not my wife. Those are things that I would expect a wife to do. If you're not my wife, I don't expect you to do those things. And that extends to the fact that because you're not my wife, and because I don't think in terms of girlfriend, boyfriends, I don't think in those long-term relationship type of labels, I believe that I'm single until I'm married. And so just as I'm taking this time to kind of figure out who you are, what your values are, and how those things overlap, it doesn't mean that I'm exclusive of just one single person. My goal is to figure those things out, and I don't need a whole bunch of time to do that. 6 to 9 months tops. Enough time for me to see you get really irate, make you really upset, and make sure you don't try to kill me in my sleep, or burn down my house, or blackmail my family. And so I can do that with multiple things because there's no physical relationship. There's no time to be sitting by ourselves all the time. And that allows us to figure out in a way where if it's not working for either of us, we move on. There's no attachments. There's no heartache. They said, well, thank you for being straightforward. Thank you for being transparent. I know that this is not going to work. Let me move on and find somebody else who's a better fit. And then once you get to the point where you decide that this person should be married, when I get engaged, we're not going to stay engaged for very long. We're just going to get married. And then after that, we can do all the romantic things. I can do all the things, buy all the rose petals. We can go on the fun vacations, do all these different things, grow deeper and really get to know each other in a more intimate way. Most people are putting the cart before the horse. And they wonder why their relationships, once they actually finally make it right, crash and burn. But for me, this is the way I'm choosing to do it. Take it with a grain of salt because I'm not married yet. But for those who I've seen who really have very happy, very healthy relationships, they've taken something almost similar to the way I'm thinking about it, but not exactly. So hopefully this right here was an interesting, thought-provoking talk, but I'm tired after losing this, and we're heading out of this. So peace.